Hi guys, today I present to your attention a review of a new project. Let's discuss it together after watching the video. And happy viewing everyone!
It is said that the invincible Prince Shibei, at the sight of which enemies fled in horror on the battlefield, was very vicious. And now, another wedding and the bride is waiting for him in the room. But the bride also has a vice. She is a man. He is a mute slave from the Shin family. Now he replaces the daughter and will marry the prince as Shinyu. For this, he is promised that the owner will help his mother. And so, the wedding took place and the first wedding night passed. The next morning, Shinyu must go to the first princess, Dairo. The first princess insulted Shinyu in every possible way and left him on his knees. He couldn't say anything because he was dumb. In the evening, the prince arrived, but when he saw Shinyu on his knees, he pushed the princess away and took him with him. The princess swore revenge. Shinyu, having come to his senses, realized that the prince took care of him only because now he is only his property. Gradually, the prince's interest in Shinyu becomes stronger. At the banquet, Shinyu showed off his sword skills. The prince was beside himself with jealousy and severely punished Shinyu. On the night of reconciliation, the prince promised Shinyu to fulfill his every wish. Shinyu could not understand what he meant to the prince. But he decided for himself that as long as he was with the prince, he would be safe. Princess Dairo does not let up and mocks Shinyu for every night he spent with the prince. She gave him poison to drink, which corrodes all the internal organs. Everyone thinks that it is the prince who brings his concubines to death, but the only reason for their death is Princess Daizhou. The court physician Bian Shirzi said that Shinyu was in a very bad condition and had one foot in the grave. The prince asks to be saved. During the examination, the healer is shocked at what kind of wounds Shinyu has. And he told the prince about the needles under the nails and poisoning. The prince realized who was the cause of Shinyu's suffering. Therefore, the prince himself gives him medicines and takes care of him. Finally, Shinyu came to his senses, and a doctor came to him for an examination. "You should take off your pants," the doctor said. And Shinyu realized that the healer knew that he was a man. Shinyu is in doubt if the prince knows about the secret. Preparing to be punished for hiding his true identity since the wedding day, Shinyu knelt down, but the prince picked him up and carried him into the palace. The princess is indignant at such an attitude towards the concubine. But the prince ordered to kill everyone who hurt Shinyu, except for the princess. Before her eyes, all her slaves and maids were killed. But Shinyu is not impressed that the prince avenged him. He is afraid that when the prince gets bored, he will kill him in cold blood as well. The princess fainted when she saw the torture and torment of her maids. The healer brought her back to her senses, but Princess Daizhou wasn't going to thank him for it. She accused him of saving Shinyu. "How long can I stay in the palace after she becomes pregnant?" the princess asks the doctor. To which he replies that he has not yet seen pregnant men. So the princess also learned the secret of Shinyu. One sleepless night, the prince asked Shinyu to help him rub the mascara. "But then I decided to teach him to read and write so that they could communicate." It turned out that Shinyu had a unique memory. The next morning, Prince Kun Xianxiao decided to declare Shinyu his second wife, giving him the title of secret princess. At the ceremony, Shinyu decided to give the prince a gift. On the territory of the Jin Empire in the town of Yunmen, where Mother Shinyu is from, there is a tradition to choose the largest bean and make a dice out of it. On it, carve the name of the one you truly love. As the legend says, then the one you love will love you in return. Memories of childhood and mother flooded over Shinyu. He decides for himself that he will be obedient, if only to meet his mother later. Suddenly, the prince entered, who noticed that Shinyu abruptly hid something. The prince is surprised that Shinyu can have his own secrets, but does not put pressure on him, but, on the contrary, gives him his gift jade of the same color as Shinyu's skin. The prince cannot understand how he fell in love with Xinyu. How can you love another person so much? Trying to find out why he was so fascinated by Xinyu, the prince confesses his feelings to him. But at this moment, the servant says that the princess demands that the prince visit her. Princess Daizhou is furious that Xinyu is given the title of consort. But only when she sees the prince, she tries to subdue her anger and begins to repent of her actions. The prince does not believe her, as the princess constantly insults everyone around, especially Xinyu, calling him a piece of dirt. The prince still insists that she humble herself and conduct the ceremony with dignity. At the same time, preparations are underway in the imperial palace for the trip to the northern kingdom. The emperor plans to surprise the Xianxiao with his unexpected appearance and writes a letter to his sister Princess Dairou. The princess realized that the brother emperor would come to her aid and was trying to behave with restraint and calmness. She goes to Xinyu to talk about family matters. She tells him a story about a beautiful mute slave who lives in a Shen family and who was married instead of the family's daughter. Xinyu is shocked. He realized that the princess knows his secret. The princess decided to threaten Xinyu with telling the truth about him to the prince. Then not only he will suffer, but also his elderly mother. To prevent this, she offers Xinyu one condition: he must obey her in everything. And her first order was to refuse the prince to spend the night with him and send the prince to her. The prince sees that Xinyu is behaving strangely. And, although Xinyu's wounds have healed, he turns away from the prince in every possible way. Not understanding what is happening, the prince insists on intimacy. Xinyu is the only one left. He writes on paper that the prince should visit the princess. The prince is confused. Xinyu writes that bad rumors will spread, but this annoys the prince more and more. The prince is confused. Does Xinyu no longer want his patronage? In anger, the prince leaves him, saying that he will not come for the next days. The princess has dressed up and is waiting for the prince. But the prince is still missing. She again falls into anger, believing that Xinyu did not listen to her order. She does not know that the prince spent the night in the library and was not with Xinyu at night. Knowing the character of Princess Dairou, one can understand that she is ready to severely punish Xinyu for disobedience.